This lesson, we're going to do a little more moodier, kind of cooler lighting, but you notice you don't need a lot of things to make light really cool. We're going to shape things. I picked something that's kind of tough to shoot. We're going to take a look at this clear globe, and we're going to do a photograph that would be a typical photograph that you do for a brochure cover, annual report cover, an element that you would mix with some other things that would be about world connectivity. I've actually done this shot a number of times with globes like this over 30 years for different subject matters, a lot of it about telecommunications. So you're always shooting, you can take this thing and shoot it a bunch of different ways and you always get a different look. So it's got a problem. We see everything as a ball bearing. We see it's like a big one giant specular highlight that sees everything in the room, and then I can see through it, so I can see specular highlights, even in pinpoint lights through it, and I can also see the lines through it. It gets things confusing. So to start with, I just set it up on a kind of a cool bark paper background. It's kind of yellow, and I'm using one spot grid, very small spot grid. I decided I was going to try to shoot the sort of northern hemisphere, but I pushed it over to the side so the light is really on the left side. It's really out of the crop of the area that I'm working with. So hopefully that's right off the bat going to give me a big be very helpful as I start out, because the highlight is on the side that's out of the crop. I'm not going to have as many specular reflections. But when I start putting the background lights in, we're going to see some reflections. Here we have the live feed coming in from the camera, and I'm liking already what's going on. I'm giving plenty of room at the very top of the screen, right here at the top of the cropped image, for some type. I'm liking the fact that it's very far out of focus. You notice what I'm using for a lens here. Instead of using that 90 that we've been using so much, I went to the 70 to 200 zoom lens. I'm all the way out at 200 millimeter, and I'm shooting wide open at 2.8. And I'm just using the modeling light from that light. It's so intense, it's just a modeling light. I don't even need the strobe. The strobe is way too, I mean, I could use the strobe, but I don't need to, because I'm going to mix a little modeled tungsten light. I like to think if you really want to learn lighting, you work with what we call hot lights, tungsten lights, because you learn light. What you see is what you get, so you can really tell if the lighting is doing what you need it to do before you start working with strobe, which is light can be at different power ratios, and the modeling light looks like one thing, but the power is something else. It's a little harder to learn that way. I learned on hot lights in my early career. Strobe sort of came along later, and I always feel like the hot light gives you the control. So we're using it, one spotlight coming in. Do need to go ahead and we'll have to take once we get all the lights on, we'll take at least one photograph of the passport. We'll use that for our color to double check things. I'm not sure about the color till I turn everything on. So let's see how we go for the next step. I've got a background light that I'm going to turn on. And right off the bat, I bet you anything we're going to see that light right in the photograph, which you do. And I don't like where it's pointing, but you can see it's got a big specular highlight. We don't like that right now. We'll work with that. I'm going to put this background somewhere in the background lighting around in here. Let me tighten everything down. Put it right here. And I have my broken piece of glass. All this is just rippled shower glass. Mine happens to have been crushed a few times and taped back together, but it's just rippled shower glass that's going to give us kind of a rippled look through the background. And you can see as I move that around, I can be watching on live view. I can turn the camera, turn the screen around so I can see what's going on and position this exactly where I want it to be to give myself some interesting light to pass through the back. I'm liking a lot what I see right now on the screen. It's some lights and darks, and primarily I've left some dark areas down here for any kind of light copy to go, and pretty much a dark area up here for any light copy to go. So it might be room enough for a headline, but yet we filled the frame. The North American content's got some good light on it. It's now time to go ahead and take a photograph of what we have. So I'll close off the live viewer and go to, we're in the shooting menu, and we're seeing that we're manual. I've got it set for tungsten exposure. We should probably take one shot with the card. So I'll hold have the color passport card here that I have both the Macbeth, well, not Macbeth, used to be called Macbeth. We have a hard time not saying that, but it's now X-Rite. The X-Rite color checker that is standard throughout the industry, and then the secondary part here that has the warming and cooling colors so that we can actually warm the shot up or cool it down by clicking on different patches. So we'll get that in the shot where it's getting some good light on it, get my cable release. I'm not worried about it being sharp or in focus. I just want it in the photograph. And we should see something coming up right here. Boom. And that's going to give me plenty of information. I might shoot one It's a little bright. I don't want to change my exposure on the camera. I may tilt it back just a little bit here. Start right there. Just get one a little darker. Okay. And if I can get the majority what I need, that's it. Even though it's out of focus, that's fine, because all I'm going to do is actually pick any of these patches. The cooler the patch I pick, the warmer the shot, because it's going to try to keep making the cool shot the neutral, so the shot being warm to start with will just get warmer and warmer. So that works just fine. So we've got that shot. Let's go ahead and do a real shot and see if we like the initial composition and double check for the specular highlights. Okay, I really like that, except for there's one really bad highlight. I've got some black card ready to go, so just simple black card from the art store. I'll attach that to some type of stand. We have a nice boom stand here. It makes it very convenient because I can lower that in and sort of wheel that into the shot. And we will be able to see instantly if this is doing what we want it to do. I'm going to come around here. I think just to make sure we understand what the camera sees, let's go ahead and put it right back on live view one more time. And we'll see we'll see if we can get the look we're looking for. All right, here we go. So I can see that highlight right now, and as I move, I can actually see right from where I'm standing. When I move that in, you can start to see that highlight disappear. It's not affecting the rest of the shot, but it took that highlight out. So before and after, little details like that. Sure, I could retouch that. I could retouch that out. That's not an issue. Sure. Anybody could. It's not a big deal. It's 5 minutes of Photoshop or less of just clicking and being very careful to get that out. But if I can put a card in there and knock it out here, that's the right place to do it. It's called work smarter, not harder. Get it out of the way. When I shoot, I act like there is no Photoshop. I only use Photoshop as a planned technique, or I have no other way to do it but in Photoshop. Now, planned technique means I'm going to shoot different elements I know I'm going to assemble. But when I'm just doing straightforward product photography, I want to act like there is no Photoshop. Anything I can clean or light or flag off, get off the set, that's what I need to do right at the time I take the shutter. Click the shutter, boom, we're ready to go. Not so much post-production. Let's take a new shot here. We'll go out of the live view one more time, close that, and we're back to our regular shooting. Let's take a peek, and we should see that actual highlight disappear immediately. We take one more shot, and we'll take just a few to be safe. I like it. I'm happy with that. Now, I'm going to do, just to be creative, I'm going to see, remember we talked about earlier about how we can move channels around. If I leave this light where it is, that's lighting the main part of the globe, but I slightly move that background light around, it might give me like a mottled colored look. And just slightly, not extreme, but just like some kind of like interesting color or modeling. Let's try it just as an element. We may or may not use it. All I'm going to do is slightly move the mirror around to another spot. Maybe just so the light is falling differently. Right. Okay. Now we should see a difference. There's no way I can keep it in the same spot. I'm going to do a picture and watch how just the background is going to change a little bit. And just, not a lot, but just a different look. So we'll try a couple of movements like that, because we may merge a couple of those together. We may switch to channels. It's hard to say. We should also probably shoot one without the background at all on, just to have since we've already got it set up. That's another version. Each one of these are a little bit different. That also gives the client a little choice. If they feel like they have the last say in something, it just, even though any of them would work, it gives the client the feeling that you're all participating as a team. And that's where the really great shots come from, is participating with a team. It's not just photography, it's art direction, photography, styling, working together to create something that's greater than any one person can actually create. That's where you get some really art in what we do. And this should be the last one for us. That's very good. We got some really nice ones there. I'm going to turn this off and just do one clean one without any light at all. And just in case, one more like that. Different shot completely. I like it. I think we're going to take these into Photoshop and then basically make some really cool art. So let's see what happens.